Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Money Matters. I am your host, Hung Lu with Cash Property. And today we're going to do a really fun little calculation around how to buy something versus just looking at what we're buying. Okay, because a lot of times, and this applies to everything, believe it or not, like everything that you can buy either outright in or with installments, monthly payments. This is a really good exercise to go through because a lot of times it's not just what we buy, but how we buy it. And, my goal is really to make sure that all of us achieve our financial independence sooner rather than later. Okay, so let's get right into it. Now, let's see. So this week, this Friday is the third Friday of the month. And so we are having our monthly mastermind. This is an online group. So if you are interested in chatting more about real estate, connecting and networking with other individuals of different levels within real estate, this is a great event that I host, yours truly. We meet on the third Friday of every single month online, and all you have to do is sign up, and we will invite you by email with the Zoom link, and it happens every month. Okay, so that is this event coming up. And okay, so let's get right into this fun calculation. Oh, I forgot to bring the watch. Okay, so so we are going to run the example with the watch tracker. Okay, and this is very relevant in my situation and probably a lot of parents who have kids where we want to track our kids and know where our kids are. Okay, so let's run a quick calculation here. So we're in the process of switching from like a basic German tracker watch to an Apple Watch or a Samsung Watch that we can sort of have the GPS tracking, but also have texting and call functions from our cell phone, which is fantastic. So here's the thing. When we're looking at these numbers, you're going to see like these numbers are really tiny in comparison, right? So when you look at this, you're like, well, like we're just talking a couple dollars here. Like, what's the big deal? Well, here's the thing. The concept, if you take it and apply it to something bigger, like a car, a mortgage, or a trip, okay, where you're allowed to pay it in installments, like with Canadian Tire, you can buy stuff, and if you buy over, I think 250, they let you spread it over 24 months, okay? So this question about should I just buy something outright versus taking them up on their option of doing installment payments over 12 months or 24 months, which one is better? Okay. And the thing is, the only way to know that is to run the numbers. Okay. And here's the thing, numbers don't lie. Like if you run your numbers properly, the numbers don't lie. Okay. And so let's just run through this on the simple example of a watch. Okay. And then we'll talk a bit about, okay, well, how does that translate to a car or to a mortgage, okay, which is, what I do with investment properties. Okay, so in this example here, my phone plan is with Rogers. So I called Rogers up and I said, hey, how much is it going to cost me to, you know, upgrade the Jarman watch to an iWatch or a Samsung watch. Okay, so roughly about $17.63. This is just for the watch itself. It's not even the plan. Okay, the plan is separate. Okay, so this is just the watch. And I'm like, great, you know what? It's less than $20 a month. Fantastic. And then they're like, it's 24 months. I'm like, okay, so what? Like 24 months. Okay, like, so what? Two years. Okay, great. So the total on this is $423. And the way to calculate that is you just take your 1763 times it by 24. This is how much I'm going to pay for this watch at the end of the 2 years. Okay. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine because the watch, if I was to go to the Apple store, go to Best Buy, go to wherever, in this particular case, it's the Apple Watch I'm running the analysis against. The Apple Watch was $400. And so I said, okay, well, great. You know what? It's a $23 difference. I get 2 years to pay for it. That seems like a great deal, doesn't it? So Here's the thing. Yes, on the surface, it seems like a great deal. Okay, so let's just run through the numbers here. So my options is one, buy the watch outright for $400. Okay, uh, taxes separate. Okay, so I could just go buy the watch outright for $400. Okay, done. And then the watch is ours, and we just pay the monthly plan fee, and we carry on with our life. Okay, fine. Or my option is to go with the plan. Okay, hold on. Let me back up here. Now, Apple also has a 12-month plan where I could pay $34, okay, for 12 months. So if I did the installment plan from Apple, it would be $409.80. Okay, so roughly a $10 savings if I was just to buy it outright. Okay, so not that big of a deal, right? So I was just like, oh, well, okay, do I just want to buy it outright or do I just want to, pay $34 a month? Okay. So now Rogers has this 24-month plan where I could do it in installments at 1763. It would cost me $423. So you know what? The difference here is $24, right? Pennies. Like it's not a big deal in the whole scheme of things. Okay. So this is how much it's going to cost me. So the way to look at this is, okay, I can buy it outright or I can pay an extra $24. This extra $24 it's not a savings. It's how much extra I have to pay if I'm going to go in the installment plan. Okay. It's already going to cost me $400. So it's not a savings at all. So even though I have the word savings here, it's not really a savings. This $24 is how much interest am I going to pay to Rogers to take advantage of their 24-month program? Okay. So it's $24, not a big deal in the whole scheme of things. Like, a couple of coffees, a couple of Starbucks, like one dinner. Okay. One cheap dinner. Okay. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. So now if you run a percentage, so this $24 was calculated just by taking the 423 minus the 399. Okay, so it's very simple math there. The 423 minus the 399. Okay, so what does that translate to? Because $24 doesn't seem like very much. But if you take that and you say, hey, what is that in percentage? Okay, so now this is over 2 years. So we have to say, okay, what's the percentage over 2 years? And then divide that by two to get the 1 year. Okay, so over 2 years, it's a 6.05%. And the way to get that number is you take your $24, divide that by your 399. Okay, so you take 24 divided by 399, you get about 6%. You divide that by two, that gives you 3%. So basically what that means is I'm going to be paying Rogers 3% interest to be able to take advantage of the 24-month installment plan that they have. Okay. So in the whole scheme of things, okay, like, if you were to leave this money in a savings account, you wouldn't even get close to 3%. If you put it into a GIC, you might get 3-4%. Okay. So now with what I do, I make way more than 3% a year. Okay, like we're talking, 10+%. So if you're in a situation where you can make more than 3% interest, then it makes sense for you to take advantage of any type of installments where it's only going to cost you 3%. Like for me to go and get a mortgage is already way more than 3%, right? So the way to look at this is, okay, how much is it going to cost me to take advantage of the installment plan? And can I take that money, that difference that I'm going to be saving every single month? Can I take that money and go make another investment that's going to give me way more than that 3% or whatever the cost of interest it's going to cost me to take advantage of that installment plan? Okay. So in the case of Canadian Tire, they charge 0%. So if you buy, I think 200 or 250, they take your purchase and just spread it over 24 months. Zero interest. Right? So hands down, Canadian Tire totally makes sense to take advantage of that because you're not paying any interest and you have now potentially 2 years of taking that chunk of money and go go do other things with it, that gives you, 8, 10, 15% on that money. Okay. Okay. So this example is really just showing how, little small decisions like this. Yes, it's only a $24 savings for the year. And yes, it's only 3%. And yes, it's only a $400 purchase at the end of the day, plus or minus, $20. But if you take the same principle and apply it to a car, but apply it to a mortgage, the exact same idea, okay, exact same calculations. Okay. I would not recommend taking this and applying it to a trip. Okay. Because to me, going on a vacation trip is not an investment. Okay. Now, if you take that investment trip and you go and you actually buy an investment with it, or it's a tax deductible expense because now you're taking a vacation that is linked to a business expense. Okay. That's a completely different situation here. Okay. So this concept of do you buy outright or do you buy an installment is really, it leads to how we look at debt, how we look at interest, and how we look at different opportunities. So I'm hoping that that comes across well. So one other place to apply this to is appliances. Okay, so like all of the appliances that I buy, they're for the investment properties. So I write them all off. But if you are in your primary residence, your appliances are not a tax deductible expense. Okay, so if you can apply the installment payment option versus buying it outright, and it makes sense where you can pay 3% for the appliances, and then you take that money and go and invest it in your TFSA or do something else with it that makes more than 3%. Hey, well, then it might make a little bit more sense. Okay, so really, like on the surface, it might look cheaper to go with one way or the other, but just run your numbers because really the numbers don't lie. Okay, so let me just here. So I just want to make sure that we get all of the points across here. Yeah, so even though we talked about 0% financing, like with the cars, with Canadian Tire and stuff like that, the one thing that you want to make sure is that they're not marking up the price, this monthly price or this total amount significantly more than what your direct buyout would be. So if, this 423 is fairly close to this 400, so, the numbers work. But if this amount here was, let's say, $30, okay. Oh, look at this. Like there's not in, oh, I typed in 3,000 here, so that's not going to work. Okay, hold on. Let me go back and delete that. Okay. See, so if Rogers had came to me and said, "Hey, you know what? The monthly plan is $30 a month and we're not going to charge you any fees for the financing." Yeah, on the surface it looks great, right? Like I'm not paying any interest on that. But because it's $30 over 2 years, the cost of that for the installments is $720. Okay. This is almost double what the watch would be if I was just to buy it outright. Okay. So on the surface, zero interest on this installment plan might look amazing, but really it's not, right? Because I could just go out and buy it outright for half the amount, like 40%, which is insane, right? Like none of us really know how to make 40% of our money. Like only a small percentage of us know how to do that. Okay. So that's the other thing to keep in mind is that 0% financing doesn't always mean free. Okay. So the way we buy and what we buy are two very different things. Okay. So cash flow management versus a debt trap. Okay. And so I'm hoping that this comes across here. Like if it's at a $30 a month fee, that's not like, yes, there's like monthly cash management there. And, it helps us in the long run. But in the long run, it actually hurts us, right? So like the short time frame, the $30 a month is easier to handle, but in the long run, it's a debt trap. Okay. But in my case here, this was 1743, I think it was. So I'm just going to go back here because I want to keep this in my notes here. Yeah, 1763. At 1763, it is a cash management. Like every single month, I'm able to manage 1763. And because the delta on this is $24, it's not a debt trap in the long run. Okay, so that is a quick, yeah, I just want to make sure I got all of my notes there, which I do. So that is what I have for you guys today. A quick and simple thing. Even though it's quick and simple, it really affects every aspect of every single purchase that we have available. Like companies are so super smart right now about offering installments to help the consumer out. Okay. But this is where you need to run your numbers to make sure that it actually does make sense for you, not just from a monthly cash management point of view, but the long-term debt that it's going to cost you overall. Okay, so my name is Hung Lu. Thank you for watching another episode of Money Matters, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thanks, everybody.